In this video we're going to be looking at setting up a virtual machine. So we're just going to take you through the steps of doing that. Fairly simple process, but we want to get it on video so that if you ever get stuck or confused, particularly for new students, you can refer back to this video and it'll give you a good idea on what we need to do. So a couple of things that we need to just keep in mind. The first one being that we need to already have an ISO. Now the ISO is like that CD-ROM that we'd stick into a physical machine. In this case, because we're doing it virtually through Virtualbox, we need to make sure that we've got that ISO that can be used to load the machine. So for us, I'm using Ubuntu 11.1 and it's a server edition, 64-bit, and you'll see that it's actually housed within my desktop in a folder called, or a directory called ISO. So I'm going to reference that a little bit later on in the setup process. So you can download that straight off the web, or you can see your teacher and they should have some ISOs available for you. And yeah, once you've got that, put it into a location on your machine that you know you can access at a later point in time. Alright, so getting into the actual program itself, we're using Virtualbox. This is my Virtualbox manager, so I've got a few virtual machines that I've already installed, and so I'm going to create a new one. So the first icon there is new, so I'll click on new. Everything's wizard based, so you'll be able to follow the bouncing ball, and we need to give it a name. Now, as I've spoken about in class, this name is very important and it's going to help to identify your machines at a later point in time. So we need to identify it by class, and so we're going to use the class number for that, 10316 for Cert 4, and in this particular case. Then we're going to give it an identifier as far as the operating system is concerned, so U for Ubuntu, S for server, that will work for us, and then a function of this particular machine. So for now, I'm just going to call this one vanilla, because this is going to be the machine that I use to clone all my other machines later on in the semester. So that vanilla will be replaced by web server or by file server, or whatever the functionality of that particular server is that I'm creating at that point. But the vanilla is just there for me as it's almost like a template that I can use later on down the track. And the last thing is to put an identifier as to who the person is that owns that vanilla copy, and that's me, so I'm going to use my initials PML. I'm going to copy that information because I'm going to use that later on. So just do a copy, and I need to select the type of operating system, Linux, and Ubuntu comes up automatically, but you'll see there that there's lots of different Linux operating systems there. And I am actually going to choose Ubuntu 64-bit because that's the OS that I've grabbed the ISO for. Hit next. You can increase or decrease the RAM accordingly, so you may want to increase it to a gig, or you can leave it at 512. I'm just going to leave mine at 512 for now. You can change that later on down the track. You don't need to make those decisions straight away. And then we've got a choice here between whether we create a new hard drive, or we use an existing hard drive, or we don't have a hard drive at all. And so I'm going to choose to create the hard drive for this time. And these are the selections that I have. I can go for VDI, virtual box disk image, or you've got virtual machine disks, all the way down to some of your Linux type virtual servers. But for now we're just going to go for the default, VDI, and we're going to choose dynamically allocated. Now the difference between these two are that dynamically allocated means that the hard drive will grow on a need-by basis, so as you fill it, then it will continue to grow. So it's not going to start at 8 gig. Let's go back for a sec. Nope, I can't go back. I can drag that down. Let's have a look. So I've said that we want it to be 8 gigabytes, and so it's not going to start at 8 gig. It's actually going to start much smaller than that, and it will grow to a total of 8 gig. Now the problem with this, using this dynamically allocated setting, is that if you don't if you're not careful, then you can have multiple virtual servers or virtual machines on the host machine, and you can physically run out of hard drive space if you over allocate too many virtual servers. So you've got to be mindful of how much hard drive space you've got on the host, and keep in mind that you can create new machines and it will think that it's got enough hard drive space because these machines haven't actually been fully allocated yet with their hard drive space. The other option is for fixed size. That way it will create a 8 gig partition, and it will allocate all of that 8 gig partition at the time of install. The problem with this is that it slows down the installation, and you're using up unnecessary space before you need to. So we're going to go with dynamically allocated, but both are good options. It's up to you really which one you choose. Then we've got our file name here of the file that we're creating. Now we need to make sure that we put it onto a space or an area on the host machine that can actually size that kind of hard drive. And so at this point you're going to choose the location. You're going to choose the location of the new virtual hard drive. And so we'll click on that. Okay, and so from here we can actually find where that file, where we want to put that file. So for you it'll be on your D drive or on your removable. So I've got my removable hard drive here, and I'm going to go into virtual machines, and I've got a space there called Pete Lewis, and it's here that I'm going to create a new folder. And I want to store it in a folder that has the same name as the files that I'm creating, so that it's easy to track. If you could imagine having lots of these hard drives sitting on your removable media on your hard drive, it's easy to get confused as to what is what. So I'm going to create a folder in there with the same name, using the same naming convention as I used to create the actual file for the hard drive and for the virtual machine, right at the very beginning of the exercise. So there we've got 103.16 US for Ubuntu Server, Vanilla and PML. Saving it as a VDI file down here, and we'll go save. So now my path resembles where it's actually been located. The hard drive is 8 gig, and I can create that. And once that's done, I can actually start that machine up. But there's a couple of spots a couple of things I need to do beforehand. So I need to go back into the machine, so I highlight the machine here, and I'll go back into the settings of that machine, and you can see that my settings are all down here on the left hand side, and I want to click on network, and I just want to make sure that I'm attaching to the network via the bridged adapter, not NAT, and there's a few other options there. So just double check that, and if it isn't on bridged, change it to bridged, and it picks up on the actual network card name as well. And then the second thing I need to do in here is go to my storage devices, and I need to go to my IDE controller. You'll see that my CD-ROM is empty, so I'll highlight that, and then over on the right hand side here I've got this little CD with a downward pointing arrow. Click on that, and I want to choose a virtual CD-ROM, DVD-ROM or DVD drive. And so now I have the opportunity of pointing to where they're located on ISOs, and there's my ISO image. Open, and now I've got a CD-ROM installed. So when I boot for the first time, it will boot to that CD-ROM, and it will allow me to go through the installation process. Okay, and we're done. From there I can click on this start button, and it will start the virtual server for me and take me through the installation process.